Alright, Bonehawks, this video is all about Havik, and let me tell you, I admittingly kind of wrote off this character because I was like, meh, doesn't really seem that great. And then I saw him in a couple tournaments today, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Because, like, he's getting pretty far. He actually won a regional in CEO Otaku. So, I was like, I started looking at his moves list, and at first I thought all the frame data was incorrect because it was all just so good. And then I went and I actually put the meter up, and like, this character's cracked. And he does some really insane, unique stuff. So we're going to go through his entire move list and kind of show you what everything does, kind of go over a basic game plan, show you a couple combos, and yeah, just kind of get you started with this character. So let's get into it.
Accept your death.
Again, we're going to use the standard number notation here, so just hit whatever button on the controller you're using, applies to that number, again, because the X button is different on every controller. We do this to make this a little bit more generalized, so I'm just going to keep this at the bottom of the screen for your reference for the rest of the video. So starting with his basic attacks, there's basically two that kind of outshine the rest. Most of them are just kind of leading into other things, which we're going to get to when it gets pretty crazy. Side note, this just looks like he's kind of doing some crazy dance, which is really fun. Yeah, so the two that stood out to me the most were his forward two, or sorry, back two. Back in two, which is a mid. Travels really, really far. Leads into some pretty crazy stuff. And then his back four, which is his sweep, which has like crazy range. Keeps him pretty safe, like, you know, even with the pushback on the move itself, like he's still like way back here, like you ain't hitting him. You ain't hitting him at all. So other than that, everything just kind of looked fairly basic, just leads into other stuff. So let's get into his combo strings. So starting with his 1-1 and 1-1-2. The 1-1-2 has an overhead on it, but this is a very staggerable string. Stagger means that you can just kind of do it sometimes. You don't have to finish it every time. So this right here leaves him +3 on block. That means it's still your turn. If you haven't seen the frame data video yet, definitely watch it. It's going to help you out. And then you can do it into the overhead, which is still +3, and it's an overhead. That being said, if you're fighting against Havik, you can flawless block the last hit of this, and it will turn it into -7. Let's see if I can... Yeah, so we're -7 there, which still is, like, we're not punishable unless you're Liu Kang with, like, a 6-frame normal or 6-frame poke or something like that, but... yeah, it's going to be largely safe among most of the cast. So this is kind of a good tool just for pressure, keep things going. Good stagger in 1-1. Maybe sometimes you finish it, maybe sometimes you don't. Maybe you back up and you do a sweep. Yeah, really good tool. Next we go into his forward 1 string. And you can end this in a couple ways. You go forward 1-2-2, which again leaves an overhead, which is +3. And again, this one cannot be flawless blocked. So, well, it can, but it's not going to change it like the last one did. It's still +3 either way. A little bit of a distance between you and your opponent here, so like a poke or something might whiff. But still, keeping anything that keeps your advantage is really, really good in this game. You can also switch it up and do the forward 1-3, which is unsafe at -15, but like, is it really? Because like, that's a lot of pushback right there. That's pretty crazy. But again, the counter to this one is that if you flawless block it, it's -25, and it kills a lot of the pushback. So you might want to keep that in mind if you're fighting against Havik, and also keep that in mind if you're just going to throw that out. But I don't really see why you would use that as much when you have this string here that leads into an overhead that says +3 on block. So perhaps just switching it up every once in a while, but I mean, that's a pretty big risk to take for just something as small as a low attack. So moving on to his combos off his standing 2, which is that move there. Standing 2-1 is +6 on block. So the pressure with this character is absolutely nuts. Do something like that, something like that, and then plus into plus. There is a little bit of a kind of a place where you could poke after the +6 there, but I mean, he's also got armor he could use, so I mean, this character's pressure is nuts. So if you can find ways to put it all together, you know, it could be a really, really crazy character. And definitely something that I'm going to be taking into the lab and seriously working on to know what the heck is going on. Additionally, you got the 2-2 attack. He rips his arm off. And that leaves him in a disadvantage of -5, but you get a little bit more chip damage here. So there's that to it as well. It also might catch somebody off guard who's waiting for that string to end. Then they get hit with the multiple hits of that string. Kind of a stagger kind of situation. 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. Already my mind's going crazy with the thoughts of what this character can do. Alright, so now we're getting into the kind of meat and potatoes string that I saw kind of everybody using, which is this back 2-2 string. Now, this ends in 2 different ways. You can do it into the throw to catch people who are blocking, or you can do it into a low attack, both of which, I mean, the throw's unblockable, so I mean, if they block the throw, then they're getting hit by it. But the counterplay to it, if you're playing against Havik, is to take the first 2 hits of this, and then neutral duck, that throw will whiff, and then you'll be able to full combo punish. That being said, that's why he has the low attack, because if you do that, you're going to get smacked by the low. So, as a Havik player, you should know that as well. You should know, like, kind of how to counter that situation, that there is... Maybe you've been playing Havik and you haven't encountered that yet. Maybe your throw just works every single time. But just be aware that they can duck the throw. That's what the low's for. But alternatively, they can just armor in between after this one, and that will hit either attack. You can just armor through and both attacks will whiff. This is why I recommend having kind of a cameo with a really good ambush attack, like Kano or Cyrax. Cyrax is just a good cameo in general. To kind of time that, to cover that gap for you. Kind of try and keep you safe as you go for your mix. So yeah, just be aware, it's a really good string, but there is some counterplay to it. You just got to make sure that you know your options. The last string he has is forward 4-3, which is just a couple low attacks to kind of complement his overheads that he has. Nothing crazy to do about this string. It's safe on block at -5. Can't really cancel it into anything. Cancel the first hit if you want, but that's about it. Alright, so now we're getting into the air combos, and this is kind of where Havik needs to enlist the help of a Kameo, because the only thing that I could found that really launched for anything is that one there, and it's pretty slow, so you're probably not going to hit it off of much, and you can't really cancel it off of anything. So picking a Kameo that has some sort of a launcher, probably a good idea if you want to do combos with Havik, but right now we're just showing off his aerial attacks, and I go into the kind of the Kameo situation a little bit more towards the end of the video. I do have some opinions on that, but for now let's just kind of show off his basic aerial combos. So starting with the 1-2-3 string, just kind of a basic aerial attack, nothing too crazy about that one. And again, you can stagger it into 1-2 if you want. You find some juice with that. The big one that I found that I really like is his 2-1-2 in the air, because this pops up and allows for more combo potential. So I think that one's the one that we're going to see used a lot with Havik. If you choose to go the aerial route with Havik, and again, this is why I think he's the Kameo character, because he can really do like whatever you want. He's very versatile. And lastly, we have the 2-4, which is kind of just like a kick away, and you can kind of cancel that, special cancel that into a special move if you want. Set up like a Neoplasm setup or whatnot, and then he just has basic jump kicks, so... You can definitely do some aerial stuff, and they're definitely setting you up for that. You just have to make sure you have the right Kameo equipped in order to be able to do that. So, those are his aerial strings. Let's get on to special moves. Alright, so going into the special moves here, we have the Neoplasm to start us off. Just this move here. It is a high, so be aware of that. And kind of just moves around the screen. It's kind of very unique in that way, and can lead to some huge hit advantage. You see like plus 46 there, as we're able to move, not even taking into account what our Kameo is doing, like... Just huge plus frames. Could be an easier way to get in if someone's zoning you, is if you can get one of these out, because the startup is a little bit slower at 26 frames. And the enhanced one is kind of tricky, because the enhanced one actually goes behind you. Comes from off screen. It does have a little bit of a hitbox right off the bat if you do it right up close. But yeah, it's -4 up close. And then comes back around to hit for plus 75 block advantage. That's absolutely nuts. That being said, the counterplay to this, if you're playing against Havik, is you can actually hit him out of this with anything. Even though he's only -4 after this first hit, if you hit him with anything, including a throw, it will stop the Neoplasm from coming around and hitting you on the other side. So let me just give you an example of what that looks like. So let's say Havik does it. He knows he's only -4, so he blocks. Wait for it. You just throw him. Or you hit him with the low attack. The second hit goes away. So something to be aware of both if you're playing as Havik and against Havik, that you got to know your options and what they do. So the next special move is Helping Hand, and this is your armored attack. You can use this in strings, but it leaves a gigantic gap there. I don't see people using just the regular version of this because the enhanced is what gives you your armor. And boy, does it ever give you armor. Like, you got 3 hits of armor on this thing. So that's why, like, even if you were to use it in a string, it would take somebody a lot to, like, hit you out of that. Like, we're talking like a Cyrax Spinamadoodle or like a Baraka string or something like that. You gotta react to it, and then, like... So let's show you an example of just how much armor is on this thing. This 3 hits of armor is a lot of armor. Just to, like, visually see, like, what that looks like. Alright, so Havik's gonna run up and do the move. Li Mei sees it. Boom, boom. She got an entire string out. I didn't break the armor. So if you can come up with 4 hits somehow, you can break that armor. But I mean, it is a slower move, but with all that armor, it's like, it's crazy. Use that as your wake-up attack, and then it's only -5 on block, so you remain unpunishable unless you can find someone to break that armor. Which there are setups you can do it. I have done it before with Shang Tsung, but it's not easy. So the next special move is back forward 2, Bloodbath. And this move is like a total like FU to zoners. Like, you should throw a projectile at him, he just rolls underneath it and grabs you. The normal version, that's a little bit of damage, 90 damage. But what makes this move really unique, and certainly in NRS games, is it actually allows you to tether to your opponent with the enhanced version. So now you see there's a string kind of between us, and at any time you can do what's called the corpse taunt, which is basically the same input again. You just only get this when you get the tether. And you cause your opponent to do an unblockable attack, which leads to a crumple. Crumple will lead to more combos, and then you can kind of combo from there. So, which is pretty freaking nuts. Again, if you're playing against Havik and you get hit by this tether, an armored move will beat the corpse taunt, or if you manage to hit him before he gets a chance to actually do the unblockable attack, the tether will go away. So there's your counterplay. Or again, you just armor it. Now keep in mind that this move in particular takes 2 bars of meter. And I found that there's been like some inconsistencies in the moves list with telling you exactly how much this does, but yeah, this does take 2 bars of your super meter, so you want to make sure that you are aware for that kind of a cost, but like it's a pretty good payoff, especially since you can kind of play around it. Like if you know that your opponent knows to armor through that, you could just do that move and then just block. They do their armored move, you full combo punish, with no intention of ever doing the unblockable one. So yeah, there's lots of mind games to be played with that. Next special move is the Seeking Neoplasm, which is, unlike our other Neoplasm, it's a straight up mid projectile, with a really slow startup though of 52 frames, as opposed to our original one, which is 26. You could kind of use these in tandem though, if you wanted to, for like a little bit of counter zoning or anti-zoning, using one to kind of set up the other, or vice versa. And the enhanced one launches. So yeah, it's pretty cracked move. He just kind of has all these super original stuff like all over the place. So he's a really fun character, I'm not gonna lie. I'm having a lot of fun messing around with him. And lastly, we have the torso twist, which I love the redesign of it. It looks sick. This is kind of your combo ender. Enhanced one just gives more damage. He doesn't need any more armor. Let's be real here. Alright, so for this next segment here, I would highly suggest pairing Havik with a combo extender Kameo, because it's really hard for him to get anything going kind of on his own. So I'm going to give you a couple examples here of some cameos you can use. We're starting here with Serena. She's a super easy cameo. I honestly really recommend her if you're going to try and learn the game, because she just kind of helps you combo anything into anything. So here's an example of a combo with the Serena cameo. There's 33%. We used our whole cameo bar, but we kept our meter. I think one of our big things that we're going to want to do is keep our meter for the tether. To kind of use that tether and kind of use that because it's so expensive at the 2 bars, right? And also always combo breaker. So there's one example of scenario using Serena. So here's an example of a character that would launch into the air, and we can actually use Havik's air slam that we were talking about earlier. This is kind of cool. So 26%, and after taking this into the lab, I honestly think that Sector would probably be the character that I would pair with Havik. Although the combos don't do that crazy amount, he does allow to combo, as well as we have this crazy move where Sector just shoots the missile up, because Havik already has some pretty crazy pressure already, so adding that kind of damage or pressure on top of that makes Sector a really good choice for Havik. But the way that Havik plays, like, this is like a totally great example of how the cameo system works, is you can just kind of make him do whatever. If you want more pressure, you can use different cameos for that. If you want combos, you can use different cameos for that. This character is set up perfectly to be able to play however you want to play him. Maybe not as a zoner. I haven't tried that out, though. Maybe. Who knows? But I think Sector kind of ticks all the boxes as far as really complementing what Havik wants to do, as well as giving him some combo options. Just for poops and giggles, here's a third option, is Frost. So of course Frost has this low launcher, which I think also complements Havik because we have strings that end in overhead. This one in particular, so it's a 23 frame startup on the overhead, and the Frost startup is 26 frames. So there's a very short window there for you to kind of fuzzy guard it. Doesn't do, again, the craziest damage. But you also have the Frost Bomb in addition to that. So having that in addition to all your pressure just really beefs things up. And again, I could probably go through the whole cameo roster and show you something crazy with everything, but because Havik is just that character. And I really love that NRS made him this way, and it's just the Cleric of Chaos, you know, it's the perfect example of the character. And that's it. I hope you found this guide helpful. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comments down below. And let me know which character you want to see next, because I'm kind of going through the roster as best I can here. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, because it really helps me out, and subscribe if you haven't, because I make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks, all that stuff, and we'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.